Welcome to In Focus with Silvana Pavlovska. Today we are going to continue our academic papers that we have selected for you, and we will be reading from my paper that was published by Ilko Drenkov, and the title of this academic paper is The British Foreign Office in Attempt to Bury the Macedonian Question during the Interwar Period. And he says the following: the Russian-Turkish War of 1877-1878 ends with a peace treaty signed on the 3rd of March in San Stefano. With the following Berlin Treaty from July 1878, the West European diplomacy leaves part of the Bulgarian territory under the Ottoman Empire. The Berlin Treaty is the cause for a constant tension and determines the policy of the Southeastern Europe countries in the end of the 19th century and in the first half of the 20th century, and their participation in the Balkan Wars and World War I. Due to different Balkan states' territorial aspirations, comes out the Macedonian Question as part of the Eastern Question. The British Foreign Office publishes a small book called Macedonia, right after signing the peace treaties at the end of the World War I. In fact, this book sets the ground for the Foreign Office's future policy towards the Macedonian Question. The book states that Macedonia is a conglomerate of amorphous ethnic groups and explains the prevailing Bulgarian consciousness due to the Bulgarian exarch's activities. On November the 27th, 1919, the Treaty of Neuilly is signed and Bulgaria loses South Dobruja, Western Thrace, and is obliged to give back all the occupied territories during the war. Romania increases and doubles the population. Serbia metamorphoses into Serbian, Croatian, Slovenian kingdom and triples. Greece, with the Treaty of Sèvres, increases by 50%. Harold Temperley, a witness and a participant in the events, concludes that the conference in Paris has included in the Treaty of Neuilly direct precautions against future aggression and Bulgarian national desire for revenge action, which aims to limit the strategic importance of Bulgaria to Constantinople and the Straits. Under the Treaty of Neuilly, in Bulgaria, operates an Allied Control Commission, which monitors the implementation of the military provisions. London realizes that the official power should not be too weak in order not to give scope for the expression of radical elements such as the IMRO, or its full name is Inner Macedonian Revolutionary Organization, and communists. The situation in post-war Bulgaria is in a very delicate situation. 500,000 refugees have to be accommodated, which combined with many economic, cultural and political factors could set ground for radical moves. In the region of Petric district, there's no national oppression, but the agrarian authorities do not really govern because of the leading role of the IMRO. To break the isolation of Bulgaria, the Bulgarian Prime Minister Alexander Stamboliski launched the idea of rapprochement with Belgrade. The Foreign Office is not a strong supporter of rapprochement between Bulgaria and Serbia. Creation of a large Slavic state extending from the Black Sea to the Adriatic, according to British diplomacy, would threaten the Straits and Greece. The Balkans never had a central position in Britain's political and economic priorities in the interwar period. With the exception of Greece, due to its strategic position at the heart of Eastern Mediterranean, its maritime economy, and its strong diaspora community in Britain. In August 1923, British officer Colonel Kov, after touring Macedonia, reports about the complaints of the local population from the Greek gendarmerie. He concludes that the local population is tired of nationalistic rivalries. Testimonies of Kofe outline a picture of fatigue among the population and a good description of the political or situational Macedonism. Britain wants a pact of stability and security in Southeast Europe, and for the implementation of it has the example of the framework of Locarno Peace Conference. Contradictions between the Balkan countries prevent them to join the efforts of Britain and France with the idea of forming a Balkan alliance. Foreign Office is interested in how to perform the Greek-Bulgarian agreement for voluntary and mutual exchange of immigrants. Voluntary is only a diplomatic term that covers serious violations of rights of the Bulgarian population in the new Greek lands. Foreign Office in November 1926 issues a detailed memorandum which concludes, when immigrants not only receive evaluations of their estate, but real value for their money, then the new ethnographic situation in Macedonia to considered stable and generally fertile ground for the IMRO will disappear. Foreign Office in the spring of 1927 reissues the same memorandum in which recommends to extend the term of exchange of immigrants in order to remain a smaller group of Bulgarophonic population in Aegean Macedonia. In that connection, on December the 8th, 1927, in Geneva, between the foreign ministers of Bulgaria and Greece, is signed a contract, so-called Molov-Kafandaris. The treaty arranges the payments of the two countries to each other to compensate the refugees for their abandoned properties. Overall, the agreement has an adverse result for Bulgaria, as the Bulgarian population in Aegean Macedonia decreases and is generally assimilated. In December 1929, the Foreign Office once again gives an account of the Macedonian question, and according to the Foreign Office this time, the IMRO had lost his best leaders and had degenerated. At the same time, IMRO increases its terrorist attacks and bombings. The Foreign Office is not pleased with the growing level of tension and tries to involve France and even Italy for a common démarche to the Bulgarian government to restrain their subversive elements. In Bulgaria, the sympathy for IMRO vanishes and gives place to the wish to seek legal forms to protect the rights of Bulgarian people abroad. I beg your pardon. London is aware that the Bulgarian government cannot destroy IMRO immediately and thus wants its gradual subsiding. Sidney Waterloo, a British minister and envoy to Bulgaria from 1929 to 1933, says that this would happen when in Macedonia the minority gets liberal governing and rights. British diplomat offers his decision for the return to Bulgaria of the three districts, Dimitrovgrad, Bosilegrad, and Tran. He also opens a discussion of giving autonomy to Macedonia. The diplomatic letters of Waterloo are an example of political and diplomatic thinking that is not understood at the time. Britain is aware of the problems in Macedonia and the Bulgarian ethnic character of the population there. Acceptance of the status quo and subsiding tensions are the key policy objectives of British foreign policy in Southeast Europe. Although the Foreign Office discusses giving rights of minorities to the population in Serbian Macedonia, the ultimate fear of resurgent revisionism in Europe mitigates these intentions. Sustaining the peace and keeping the balance of powers in the region are the main goals of the Foreign Office, so they concentrated all their efforts in sterilizing the Macedonian question. Processes of consolidation and formation of political alliances are taking place in the world and influence on Southeast Europe. In the period from 1930 to 1933, several Balkan peace conferences are held. Bulgaria is the only one defeated and injured by the Paris Peace Conference, Balkan country, and cannot participate in a union structured on the approval of the Versailles settlement. The tensions in Southeast Europe grow assisted by the IMRO, which emerges as one of the main catalysts for that hostility. Foreign Office recognizes that the Macedonian issue is a major obstacle in the process of rapprochement between Bulgaria and Yugoslavia, as well as other countries in the region. London receives clear information that Bulgaria will not be satisfied until the Serb population of Macedonia did not receive the rights of minorities. On 9th of February 1934, Yugoslavia, Greece, Turkey, and Romania form in Athens the Balkan Pact. Bulgaria, with IMRO operating on its territory, relapses in isolation and is in real danger of being attacked by all its neighbors. The new regime that comes in power in Bulgaria after the coup d'etat of 19th of May 1934 prohibits IMRO and thus fulfills one of the main conditions for approachment of Yugoslavia and Bulgaria. Edward Boyle, the chair of the Balkan Committee in London, asks Yugoslavia to answer with an appropriate gesture to Bulgaria and to give rights to the Bulgarophonic Macedonians. He expects the Foreign Office to influence the Yugoslav government. Permanent Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Robert Vansittart, rejects his proposal, arguing that Yugoslavia and Bulgaria have their own bilateral relations. Charles Bentinck, the British plenipotentiary minister in Sofia, days after the coup, shares about his reservations about the new government, although he does not conceal his satisfaction with the change. London does not support the new Bulgarian governors, not so much because of their French orientation, but because as they have contacts with the USSR. In 1934 comes out the first official recognition of Macedonian nation from the Third Communist International. Communist parties cannot impose doctrines and ethnic Macedonism rapidly due to lack of structures and manage to achieve results only 10 years later, after World War II. The policy for revision of the Versailles system spreads in Europe and gains momentum in the second half of the 1930s of the 20th century. In a few years, Germany emerges as a leading force in Southeast Europe and threatens British interests in the region. After 1932, Bulgaria's economy is tied to that of Germany. A contract of eternal friendship between Yugoslavia and Bulgaria is signed on January the 24th, 1937. In Sofia, Maurice Patterson notes that Germany and Yugoslavia are the only two forces that are important for Bulgaria in the beginning of 1937. Maurice Peterson believes that without support to Bulgaria, it would be hardly to break away from the pro-German influence. British diplomat recalls the mistakes of the great powers from 1914 to 1915 when they missed the opportunity to attract Bulgaria. He insists to act promptly this time to avoid the same mistake. For this purpose, he offers two things. One, economic action, higher quotas for the Bulgarian tobacco for the British market, and a political act, retreat from Greek side and giving Bulgaria access to the Aegean Sea. Peterson focuses on the relations between Bulgaria and Greece because Britain can intervene and influence quickly in this particular direction. The Foreign Office is considering how to draw Bulgaria and lay it out of Germany's pool. Possible development plans are analyzed in theory, while Germany takes real steps in political and economic terms. From the 7th of June 1938 until the 1st of March 1941, when Bulgaria enters the Second World War, the British minister in Sofia is George Randall. On July the 31st, 1938, in Thessaloniki is signed a pact for non-aggression by Bulgaria, Turkey, Greece, and Yugoslavia. The Thessaloniki Agreement is in line with the aspirations of Britain for united and peaceful Balkans and is the performance of the British idea to build anti-German barrier. Edward Coote, acting British minister in Sofia, ranks the main objectives of the Bulgarian foreign policy access to the Aegean Sea, Dobruja, and Macedonia. At the same time, it became clear that Germany supports these forces in Bulgaria, plead for the return of Dobruja. Italy has also very proactive foreign policy in the Balkans, and the Foreign Office gets information about the possibility of Italian propaganda to restore the Macedonian agitation once the Italian interests collide with Yugoslavia. On the 15th of April, 1939, Foreign Office receives a comprehensive analytical report which proposes the British Foreign Office to consider an action for the return of Dobruja from Romania to Bulgaria, regardless of the risk of triggering claims on the part of Bulgaria for the territories of Western Thrace and Macedonia. A secret directive, number 19, of the Bulgarian Foreign Ministry from 19th of April 1939, sent to Bulgarian embassies worldwide, notes that Bulgaria is economically tied to Germany and indicates the failure of Bulgaria to join the Balkan Agreement because it guarantees borders, and Bulgaria cannot accept the current borders. Foreign Office is aware that it can involve Bulgaria in the Balkan Agreement only after the realization of certain territorial concessions to Bulgaria. British diplomacy is against Bulgarian claims on Greece. The Foreign Office advocates only for the return of South Dobruja to Bulgaria, but shows no particular urgency and focuses on the matter without exercising pressure on Romania. With the set of war on September the 1st, 1939, the Macedonian question and all outstanding issues in Southeastern Europe are topical for grouping of forces. Randall asks for assistance of the Foreign Office to initiate the return of Dobruja. The British diplomat considers the question of South Dobruja as easily feasible and far less dangerous than the questions of Thrace and Macedonia. In the early days of the 1940s, the British military attaché in Sofia, Colonel Ross, gets a proposal for cooperation between the Foreign Office and the IMRO. The resolution of the Foreign Office says, I do not think we should do anything with the Macedonians. I'll read that to you again. In the early days of the 1940, the British military attaché in Sofia, Colonel Ross, gets a proposal for cooperation between the Foreign Office and the IMRO. The resolution of the Foreign Office says, I do not think we should do anything with the Macedonians. IMRO believes that the war will be won by Great Britain and seeks interaction and cooperation with the British government, and in exchange asks for a solution to the Macedonian question after the war. The British intelligence also supports the idea for mutual help with IMRO, but Foreign Office defines the organization as discredited and deprived of its influence. On the 7th of May, the Foreign Office gets news coming from Zurich for a meeting of the head of the Gestapo in South Europe, Herr Schiewert, with the head of IMRO, Ivan Mikhailov. On the 15th of August, 1940, Randall reports about activation of the Macedonians, who form a Macedonian National Committee and plan to seek support from the Germans and Italians for an autonomous Macedonia. On the issue of South Dobruja, Turkey takes a positive position, but Yugoslavia is reserved, fearing that after the settlement of the territorial problem, Bulgaria would turn its look towards Macedonia. After long delays by the Romanians and pressure from Germany and Italy, South Dobruja is given back to Bulgaria with the Craiova Treaty, signed on September the 7th, 1940. The return of southern Dobruja to Bulgaria is diplomatic triumph for Bulgarian consistent policy of neutrality and peaceful revision of the Treaty of Neuilly. This act is the biggest diplomatic success of Bulgaria in the period between the two world wars. Although the concentration of human, economic, political, and diplomatic resources in the region in the period from 1938 to 1941, the Foreign Office loses any allied ground in the Balkans. Late assessment of the realities is evident from a document titled The German Threat to Bulgaria from February the 22nd, 1941, which predicts the loss of Bulgaria as a potential ally and expresses a hope that hostilities will be avoided. The Foreign Office realizes that Macedonia and Thrace, and maybe even land around Edirne, would probably be enticing motive for the inclusion of Bulgaria on the side of the tripartite pact. All possible policy levers, all possible policy levers to influence decisions are acted out in time. George Rendell accurately summarizes the causes which impel Bulgaria's entry into the war on the side of Germany, says Ilko Drenkov, who is the author of this academic paper titled The British Foreign Office in Attempt to Bury the Macedonian Question During the Interwar Period. He says again that when he summarizes the causes which impel Bulgaria's entry into the war on the side of Germany, fear of Russian communist imperialism, southern Dobruja as a gift that Bulgaria receives, collapse of Yugoslavia and Greece, the Bulgarian-Turkish declaration of the 17th of February, 1941. The Macedonian question is par excellence, and as less as it comes out on stage, the Foreign Office feels satisfaction. Its delay in time and postponing its solution is the main strategy of London, and restraining from any idea of giving autonomy to Macedonia. The British policy follows the principle of non-interference. All British diplomats in Sofia work for the protection of the peace and the status quo incorporated by the Paris Peace Conference. Foreign Office believes that administrative reforms and economic development is the formula to the solution of the problems in Southeast Europe. The attempt of the British Foreign Office to bury the Macedonian question is partially or partially successful, especially in Aegean Macedonia, with the voluntary exchange of populations, and has its climax with the ban of the IMRO in 1934 and the Thessaloniki Agreement in 1938. In the eve of the Second World War, most of the British diplomatic achievements in the region fade away with the outbreak of the military actions. And that was this academic paper written by Ilko Drenkov, titled "The British Foreign Office in Attempt to Bury the Macedonian Question During the Interwar Period." There are no references listed in this document. There are footnotes to explain some of the references that are made in the paper. The paper consists of 9 pages, all in all. I hope that it's given you some insight about that period, the interwar period, and why Ilko Drenkov says that the British Foreign Office attempted to bury the question during the interwar period, and it was successful partly. So the Macedonian question was not discussed again. And to this day, it still remains open. Thank you for your company this day. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Silvana Pavlovska signing off for In Focus. Bye for now.